the first assignment in this course. It is to develop a volunteer recognition strategy. A couple of things before I walk you through the student sample is I absolutely do not expect your assignment to look like the one that I will be walking you through. It is extremely high level and advanced. The idea was to show you different ways that you could create a volunteer strategy or come away with a few different tips or tricks or ideas for creating your own volunteer recognition strategy. This assignment may be completed individually or you're welcome to join up in small groups. Several of you have already asked about that. Just let us know who is in your small group. The goal of this particular assignment is to design one annual kind of volunteer recognition plan. It does incorporate your volunteer position, but we realize that when you're doing a recognition plan, you're probably going to engage all the volunteers in your programs. So please keep that in mind. We're not looking for specific ties to the volunteer position. You might think about some of the things in the volunteer position, but the idea is just to create an overall plan. Your recognition event can be any format that you will use or, would like to use. It can be an in person event. It can be a virtual event, which is what a lot of organizations are going to, or it can be a combination of both. Your overall strategy should use a variety of recognition methods. So, what we're looking for is both informal types of volunteer recognition, and those are usually throughout the year, throughout the life of the volunteer position. They're smaller, more informal, and also some of the formal recognition strategies and methods that you might use. We're also looking to see that you have made a connection way back to your first course on the three needs theory and the motivational theories that we covered. So we'll show you an example how that is done. We are looking for, especially for your formal recognition component, a timeline. So an action plan for who will be carrying out what, when, where, and almost why, and also an outline of a budget. We understand that you may not have budgets, so please feel free to create your own hypothetical budget. We'll also be able to tell if that's would be a realistic budget. So for this particular strategy, it is huge. It is for an exceptionally large municipal government program. So we're talking 17 different departments and probably close to 48 or 4,500 formal volunteers, 4,000 episodic. Huge diversity in age range, geographical locations, the same with the programs. So the reason we're showing you this is because they have a committee that comes together to think about how they can recognize volunteers year round at a higher corporate level, at a department level, at a program level, and more as an informal level. So you'll get some ideas for all three different kinds of recognition layers and methods. So at a corporate level, very high up, if you have a large, highly organized, structured organization, that might be hosting an annual one-off volunteer event, corporately creating national volunteer event activities and promotions that would be used throughout the whole organization, nominating individuals for awards, both locally, provincially, nationally, having a formal ceremony, and in this case is at council, and also they do have support. They have a small budget from a corporate level to help them carry out some of these very formal ideas and recognition events. Then we break it down and they look at, well, from a department or more closer to the volunteer program level, what can they do? So here they talk about the importance of recognition and retention and volunteer satisfaction. So other ways that we can recognize contributions So it's ongoing, it's throughout the year, and it's meaningful and appropriate, more one-on-one with those volunteers. And we're expecting that when you're in a department or a program type of a volunteer program, that it's your responsibility in your areas to kind of provide that overall recognition. And we realize that depending on your program, your department, everything is very unique and unique to your programs. So it can be everything from a simple thank you to formal awards. And to give you an idea of how you can come up with some ongoing, more formal, and I'm going to say nearly all of these are informal recognition ideas. You can see there's a whole list of ideas of things that could be carried out throughout the whole year. And it's broken down where we can say informal and formal, and they've actually put the link to the motivational theory so that you can get hopefully a few ideas of when you're working on your recognition event. Oh, what could we do throughout the year, and is that formal or is that informal, and what kind of motivational theory does it link to? We do not expect to see this kind of detail in your assignments. They've also now included, this is at a program level, they hold an annual volunteer appreciation event, and that's an in-person type event for a group of actual programs. And you can see here they've gathered together quite a few of the different programs, and it incorporates both formal long-term volunteers and some of the episodic and special events volunteers. So this is kind of a one day, one morning, couple hours, and they have quite a variety of who would attend this event and who it would appeal to. And you can see they've basically explained that the purpose of it is it's a long held tradition. It's grown over the years from the staff preparing and serving the food to the volunteers now with all of the public health and COVID and things like that. They kept the event going, but they could no longer cook and prepare the foods, which is what made this event so unique and special for the volunteers, because the staff were actually preparing and supporting volunteers. Now the food is actually catered in, but it's the staff that do all the preparation, all the serving of the food, all the cleaning up. And what makes it nice is while it's a formal event, the format is informal. It's drop in and out, and we don't have any kind of formal speeches or awards or ceremonies. In fact, if we do have dignitaries or management attending, their role is not to meet and greet. Their role is to meet and greet. They can't be doing that kind of ceremonial role. Their role is to go around and sit and welcome and chat with the volunteers and get to know them. And they've also had a video. They recorded photographs of volunteers in action in the various programs and put it on a video loop, so it was playing throughout the whole event. And then through the informal recognition, you can see how they set it up with tables and buffet style. And as the volunteers arrived for the event whenever they wanted to, they received a very small token gift. It was usually just a very tiny thank you. It could have been a pin or something small, really of nominal cost. And what they did, because they didn't have an unlimited budget, is every volunteer got a ballot, and they could put their name in it, and there was 17 gift baskets, one from each program. They all contributed them in kind, and the volunteers put their name in the ballot box in front of the gift basket that they would like to put their name in for the draw. So that was one way of having kind of a fun, interactive, very low cost, but the volunteers really enjoyed it. There is a bit of an explanation of how they tied all of these recognition events to the formal motivational theories. You saw the chart earlier about the three needs motivational theory, and this would help you too as you're working through your assignment, explaining how each one of the activities basically met the needs of some of the volunteers there. So the affiliation piece was, people could bring a guest, drop in, sit with friends, chat. For achievement, we had volunteer service pins. We had the staff serving the volunteers and meeting and greeting with them, and also the gift basket piece where a volunteer could choose what appealed to them. And then for the need to for excuse me the need for power, although management had no formal function, there were individuals that could have been on boards or committee chairs that were quite happy to sit and chat with one of the regional counselors or a director or department manager. For the timeline, they've actually just created the timeline and for the volunteer breakfast. So again, we're kind of giving you ideas of how this can flow and how you can use some components. So all of the different tasks that they started on and who was basically responsible for it. So they thought about everything from booking the date and the setting to starting on their menus, getting their invitations sent out, how they were going to send the invitations out and distribute them, putting up RSPs, getting the baskets together, and then decorating. Nothing too complicated, just a quick, simple action step plan. Who does what? Their budget might be a little bit more excessive than what your program might have. Again, gives you some good ideas where we can capture the actual costs and some of the in-kind donations. Always incorporate in-kind donations because if you just say you have a budget of $500 and you're posting this great big volunteer recognition event, and all of a sudden the next year you've lost some of your in-kind donations, you've got a huge gaping hole and can't actually carry out your event. And also, it's really important to capture and recognize the impact of the organizations that are providing those in-kind donations. So definitely keep that in mind. And here you can see they've got their costs, their in-kind donations, and their expenses. So their total budget and this was for a whole year for almost I'm going to say 8,500 volunteers, worked out to be about $4,500. So we're looking at about, on average, $2 spread out for each volunteer over the year. Hopefully you've come away with just a few ideas of different things that you could do or ways of thinking about putting your volunteer recognition strategy and plan together.